Hello and welcome to this very special Friday therapy session. I hope you are well and are ready for this weekend, hopefully without controversies and off the pitch drama, because we've had enough of that already this week, to be honest. Football is dead, or is it? That is the name of tonight's stream part 2, because on Monday, me and Jordan were both shocked about the Super League announcement and commented on the whole situation. So if you missed that video, please check that out as well as subscribing to the channel, of course. As today we take a different look on the whole thing, because even if the project is postponed, I guess, do not think for a second that your football, my football, is saved. There are still a lot of sharks in the water, and I've got a whole group of passionate people with me today, and a special welcome to Ili, who runs Owl Reporter blog. Welcome to you, Ili, for the very first time to Juve Therapy.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Sure. And as you can see, guys, even though he wears the Bayern Munich kit, he's a good guy. At least for now. Maybe he maybe will change your mind.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, before we dig into whatever this is, let's break it down in case you have been off the grid for a while and you basically have no idea what Super League is. So this is basically the timeline of what happened. And as you can see, last week, Florentino Perez, the CEO, the Real Madrid president, the brains of the European Super League operation, met with CEO of Atletico Madrid and the senior representative of Spurs, Tottenham Hotspur, and an investment fund, which is Key Capital, I believe. They were funding this project. He felt the announcement has to be made before UEFA confirmed their new Champions League format. And he got the CEO of Atletico Madrid on board alongside others. And Barcelona president Laporta also met with Perez late last week, while wanting to run the issue by the club members, I think. But he followed his predecessor, Bartomeu, by backing Perez's plans. And on Saturday last week, we had, those guys, 12 clubs presidents, they had a video conference call through Zoom to discuss this, and the key documents were already being exchanged at that time. UEFA got wind of the plot, and Alexander Ceferin, I'll keep calling him president of UEFA, but we might change the mind to Snake and traitor and greedy bastard later on the stream. But UEFA CEO, basically, or whatever the title is, he called Juventus president Andrea Agnelli, who lied to him or misinformed him, according to Ceferin, by playing the situation down as only mere rumors. Well, whether that is true, well, anybody's guess. But it's funny how it boils down. And then, of course, the Sunday morning was the deadline for all clubs to confirm their participation. But Man City had the most doubts. The group failed to convince Bayern Munich or PSG to get on board, but they were determined to proceed with the matter. And then, of course, they went public with this just half a day before UEFA were due to publish their Champions League reforms. By Monday morning, every corner of football world has been in shock, and threats came from UEFA and even politicians. La Liga clubs wasted no time in releasing their statement. And of course, players like Ander Herrera, who funnily enough plays for PSG, and the mighty James Milner, who nobody basically cares about. But apparently, since it's James Milner from Premier League, we suddenly do care. But yes, it was a big player. A lot of players came out and disagreeing basically with the Super League. But on Monday night, which is quite funny, on Monday night, Florentino Perez appeared on the Chiringuito. It is the La Liga football show or some sports show or something. Basically confirming this Super League, and it will go ahead. It doesn't matter if some leave, we'll invite somebody else. So he was very confident. And then, of course, at the end of the day, The rejections came on Tuesday from all 6 English clubs. And at the end of the day, 3 are left standing. Juve, Barcelona, Real Madrid. And the news which are just broke today, I don't know if that is true. Der Spiegel, which is the German paper, they said that Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Juventus have reportedly decided to stay in the Super League to recover the millions of euros in penalties that the other 9 clubs, basically have to pay to the Super League, which is interesting. So this is it. This is basically the timeline. How it happens is far from over. They still talk about a lot of stuff and what is going on and what's going to happen. What are the consequences? But before we go to that point, I wanted to start off with explaining the Champions League format. So I give the word over to Eli, so you can explain what this Champions League format is. And I know that this is a freaking complicated stuff because we struggle to understand this, and it won't become any easier with years. But we'll try to make it simple. So I'll show you this setup, and Eli, please walk us through this format.
Sure. Well, to put it in easy word, basically UEFA came up with a new idea to be more corrupted and generate more money, and while we were so busy with the whole Super League stuff. So basically, the new format is starting 2024. There will be 36 teams instead of 32 teams competing in the Champions League, which means that there will be 225 matches instead of 125 matches, which is the current format. And therefore, every club will be guaranteed 10 matches, which also, of course, means that they would, generate more money from the TV rights and without giving any concern about the players or the schedule or anything else. And also, which is the most important thing that I'm shocked that no one spoke about it, that 2 places, as we can see also on the screen, other teams to qualify through a new round of playoff, and also 1 league instead of groups. That means that 2 places will be given to clubs with highest coefficient and that were not able to qualify through their national leagues. For example, to say it in a much easier word, let's take the Premier League. If Leicester in the Premier League finishes 5th, they would not qualify for the Champions League. They would play in the Europa League, while United or Liverpool or Chelsea or any other bigger name club finishes 6th, they could still participate in the Champions League. I mean, that's basically the Super League, but under the Champions League format. I don't see where the difference is, actually. And I'm very happy that one player spoke about it. I saw it on Twitter, Gundogan. He said that while everyone is busy on the Super League, we should also pay attention on the new Champions League format because it's just the lesser evil of the 2. He meant the Super League. And I don't understand how come no one opposed it yet or paid attention to that. But we should, I think the fans should do the same as they did to the Super League, because that's just discrimination from UEFA as we are used to have from them. So that's basically the new Champions League format in a simple way, if you wanted to put it.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. Graham, you were. I looked at the screen and I saw that you're shaking your head. So let's start off with you, Graham. What are your thoughts about all this?
Complete utter nonsense, that new format. I mean, has anyone got any major complaints about the current format right now? I think it's been, during my time as a football fan, I think it's been the best format I've seen. Prior to that, you had the convoluted 2 group stages, the first phase and second phase. You had to go through 2 groups, and then you reached the knockout stage, which was quarterfinals. There was no round of 16. And I just thought that was an utter mess. And then 2003 came along. They gave us a current format, And it's never, ever, ever going to be fair and 100% on sporting merit when any of these federations are involved, whether it's your domestic league, whether it's UEFA, FIFA, whoever. It always comes down to the bottom line of how much money can we make. But I just can't see why, new fans, non-fans, long-time fans like ourselves would look at that format and say, yeah, that's what I want the Champions League to be like. And the reason I think, myself included, I've got to include myself in this, why so few people are talking about the new format is the awful timing from the likes of Agnelli, Florentino Perez, and everyone involved in the Super League, where they announce the Super League, or it leaks out before this announcement. Everyone's attention is focused on that. The closed-off league, words like elite being used. I can't remember the words or the term they were using. Legacy fans, like they were labeling long-time fans legacy fans as if it's a bad thing. So everyone's anger was directed at that, and all the while in the background, this was lurking. And then the announcement is made, but we're all still focused on the Super League.
Yeah, indeed. That was was a very bad timing, and I think, partially maybe because Agnelli was in the board for the ECA. He knew that the Champions League format was to be announced, so he kind of played the Trojan horse role. Basically he was hiding behind and lurking, and then he basically went to the Super League. DJ, the Super League, when this first came about, when the news were announced, were you surprised?
Well, Roman, the thing is that this has been in the works for a while. This isn't something that has transpired overnight. What I was surprised about was the timing of the announcement. But was I surprised there was a Super League in the works and in the offering? Not really, because if you're reading between the lines over the years, people like Perez, Agnelli, they've been talking about the Super League. We've heard that term before, and over the last couple of years, ever since Agnelli has been in the ECA, we've kind of repeatedly heard about how there is need for reform in the game, specifically economic reform. So yes, not surprised about the formation of the Super League, though I didn't anticipate that it would happen as quickly as it did. It was almost the way they announced it all just seemed very hurried. And I think a lot of it can be seen in the way it all got undone over 72 hours. I don't even know if they were ready to pull the trigger. It just seems like they were anticipating what UEFA was up to, and they went for it.
Well, my problem with the whole thing is that when you create something new, when you create a project, you always have to think about what happens if not. What happens if you get the criticism? What are we doing if this doesn't go as the way we planned? What is the plan B? But it didn't seem to be the case. And of course, the strange thing we can be criticizing is, of course, the fact that all European, all English Premier League clubs, they together almost were pulled out of this almost instantly, while the rest were lagging a little bit behind, which is a bit suspicious. Ile, I don't know. Do you? I've heard rumors that UEFA paid them off. Is this true?
Yeah, I heard the rumors too, but and especially to punish Perez, because UEFA knew that if just one Premier League team would back out, the project would fall apart, and they wanted to get after Perez because he was the mastermind along with Agnelli and the Super League. And what I was thinking that these are 12 of the biggest clubs in Europe that are run by big CEOs and advisors.
Let me correct you. 11 and Tottenham.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Actually, in my case, Tottenham and Arsenal. But,
yes, indeed. Wow.
Yeah, I can't understand how Tottenham are considered a super team in that, but that's another subject.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
But there are advisors and CEOs and masterminds behind these teams, and they just got together and decided, that let's launch a super league, which was in discussion for 10 years now. And I remember even Arsene Wenger spoke about this, that 10 years after they will create a super league because money would not be enough and all of that. And they just decided, let's put the idea out there and not worry about anything else or hope that all the teams or fans would agree. That's a little, doesn't make sense. I don't think that they were actually convinced that it's going to work, unless they did it to send a message to UEFA that we're after you, we're planning something. It might not work now, but it will work later. So I guess Perez would think like that. I don't like the guy, but business-wise, he's smart. He's the president of Real Madrid, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and one of the reasons I think he's after that Super League is to hide all the debts he has in the club. That's why basically Real and Barcelona are the only teams still pursuing the Super League so bad. Because they want to sign Haaland and Mbappe and give so much money and wages, and they don't care about anything else. So I just can't understand how like, what's the point? Where's the plan? What's the trophy gonna look like? What's the point if there is no relegation? He said we've got 15 teams competing, while 5 will compete through merit and to earn their right. But how's the shape of the league? I don't know. I was really shocked when I heard the news.
You can see the format here, which is basically made like on a graphic form. But as you can see, as you said so perfectly, Ile, it's 5 clubs qualify according to the system, as yet unspecified. So we don't know. It's 2 groups of 10 teams, home and away matches in the form of a championship played midweek, beginning in August. Yeah, so it's that's basically it. But my question to all of you, I don't know who wants to answer that one, but before the Super League arrived, we still had a problem, and there is still a problem with football in general. When you get promoted to Premier League, you get more money. When you're promoted to the Premier League than you would get if you win the Champions League. And this, for me personally, I don't know much about the finances in football, but for me it just sounds strange.
Well, the Premier League's the biggest, richest league in the world. Everyone knows that. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, I'm sure if you asked them, I don't know this is fact, I'm just assuming. If you ask them, like casual football fans, what's the biggest competition in football, they would say, the English Premier League. No. Because it's the branding, the marketing, the money behind it. It's the most successful league in football, and I don't even like it. So I'm not saying that as a fan, but that's just the way it is. I mean, it's been phenomenal branding and just promotion and everything involved in it.
But why is it like this, do you think?
Yeah, which is why probably Boris Johnson himself went crazy when the Super League stuff came out, and then he personally came after it to destroy it,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he knows how big
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, Boris Johnson, he knows how big a deal football is in England and the UK in general. I mean, it's massive, and in no way am I saying like this was all brought down because of the fans. I mean, that's just delusional. But it played a part in the optics. You know what I mean? On the appearance, when you've got these big clubs and they're saying we're going to go and do the Super League, and then you have like your customer, like your local customer who comes and fills the stadiums up in normal times, or going to the grounds or the training grounds in Manchester United situation. Manchester United fans allegedly stormed the training ground, and it resulted in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer having to talk to them and calm things down. Chelsea, their fans were protesting, etc., to the extent where Petr Cech had to calm them down. So it played a part, a small part, but it did play a part. And obviously Boris Johnson, he knows how important that is to the economy and everything in England.
DJ, go ahead.
In many ways, guys, we're not fooling ourselves when we say the real Super League is really the Premier League. It's just like Graham was saying, so much about the optics. If it really was about tactics all these years, you'd see the England national team, come off a little successful on the international stage. We don't really see that because what people are really buying is in terms of the marketing, branding, the way these franchises are built from the ground up. That apart, I think to answer what we were discussing a little earlier, that's exactly why you even need a Tottenham here as part of the ESL, because really it's a power league. And Tottenham is today, believe it or not, in the top 10 richest clubs in the world by way of brand valuation. Juve is 11. So you can understand the desperation of every club that's not playing in the England Premier League, especially Spain and Italy, and need to float an ESL, to create some kind of economic parity. And where do you draw the line? So as far as the ESL goes, I mean, Juve and Madrid and Barca can continue to, consider themselves part of this union, but it's really not going to get a go ahead before you have some kind of English participation. That's what's going to bring in the right kind of funding. That's why JP Morgan kind of came in and everybody had a 350 million sign-on. You take those clubs away. Where does it really stand, from an economic perspective? And then you have to question whether it makes sense to go ahead and isolate yourself from the rest of Europe, as an independent regulator. So it's funny. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, I mean, the question is, if we turn this around, if I'm Tottenham, if I'm Arsenal, why should I join this Super League? What is in it for me? Because I'm rich already.
Well, I think, Roman, it's also you're still rubbing shoulders with every club that you aspire to be. You're on the pitch. So that's the only way you're going to continue to play Real Madrid. That's the only way you're going to continue to play Barcelona. You want to play against Messi and Ronaldos of the world, so it does make sense to be part of this. What I didn't quite understand is how they can call this a European Super League when you have only 3 participating European nations, had it gone ahead. You have Italy, you have Spain, and you have England. What happens to champions like Ajax, for example? Why aren't they part of this setup? They just don't have the optics of the branding of the Premier League, which is why you see there was such a divide. You had 6 English Premier League clubs. You had 3 from Spain and you had 3 from Italy. So it's very clear in terms of where the world is kind of moving. It's very important. You look at the Serie A, it's a fine league tactically, but if you see it as a made-for-TV product, it leaves a lot to be desired. And that's when
Kevin Lasagna is a wonderful player to watch every weekend, huh? Don't you think?
No, but we've gone from the 90s where this was the real power league, to seeing Italy in the state that it is today. You see how poorly run and managed it is. I mean, there's municipalities that own stadiums. Presidents are understanding the importance of modernizing, keeping up with the rest of Europe. And which is where a club like Juve really suffers, because here's a club that's trying to understand and has adapted to where modern football is today. We've understood the optics, we've understood the brand game. I mean, look at this. I mean, what are we? Jay, we've done away with the legacy. We've gotten that, but then you've got like 32 other teams holding us back. What do you do about that? How do you reform economically as far as that goes?
Ile, question for you. Why, since you are a Bayern fan, why isn't Bayern in this Super League?
Well, basically, it's because of the whole culture in Germany. Not specifically Bayern as a club, but of course, since Bayern is one of the biggest club in Germany and in Europe, because in Germany the fans still have power. We have what's called the 50+1 rule, which is related to the ownership. You know, you don't see clubs in the Bundesliga like clubs in England or in elsewhere owned by big companies and all they care about is money and stuff like that. The 50+1 rule basically states that if a club have commercial investors more than 49% of the stakes, it cannot compete in the league, which is why fans still have a say and still have a vote in that matter. And which is also why big clubs in Germany are ran through former players and legends like Bayern, for example. We have Rummenigge and Uli Hoeneß, and now Oliver Kahn joined the board. And these are players that really care about the club, and they consider fans as fans, not as brand or customers or stuff like that. So I think the culture in general in Germany was standing in the way of them joining, and the 50+1 rule of the Bundesliga. So and if you look at also our transfer record as Bayern club, it's frustrating for a fan sometimes. But before we had Lucas Hernandez for 80 million, which is the club record signing. 80 million in the La Liga or Premier League is nothing. But before Lucas Hernandez, we had the biggest transfer we had was Tolisso from Olympique Lyon for, I guess, 42 million. And even before that, it was Javi Martinez for like around 35 million or 40 million. So, there's always boundaries on what to spend and to keep financially stable. And that's why, economically speaking, Bayern is one of the clubs that are still standing in Europe and are not affected as much as other in the pandemic, which I also believe played a part of us not joining the Super League, because we don't need that much money to compete. We're good at running business. So I think basically that's why.
All right, before we continue, our final guest finally arrived. There we go. We say hi to Monsieur. Oh, yes, sorry. I just cut you off. Everybody. Let me see if I can make this. How can I make this to 5 people? That's going to be tough. All right. Auber. Bottom left. We were just talking. Nice to see you, man. We were just talking about the Super League, of course, and the Champions League format. Let's hear from you, Auber. What do you think about the Super League, the new Champions League format, and is football about to change, or is it just ruined by money now and greed?
I think it's a necessary evil, the Super League. I know Graham and I have had many conversations this week about this. The fundamentals of finances that circulate football is becoming the forefront. To survive in this game, it's like a business. Now, a lot of fans, tifosi from various football teams are saying, "Oh, it's about football. It's about the fans." Really, it's a world of naivety if you actually believe in that. Football is a business model now. To survive, you need to create funds, proceeds. You need to be in a competition that gives you that power, that financial muscle. Now, I'm as you know from the 90s, I'm in love with Champions League, the anthem, the glamour, the glitz, the glory. But with all due respect, and I don't know, apologies, obviously, first of all, I apologize, Roman, for being a bit late there. But I think the end of the day is Champions League for me should be an elitist competition. I cannot understand how, for example, Arsenal have been in the Champions League for 16 years, 17 years finishing 4th in the Premiership, and they've been into the final at least once. To me, that shouldn't be the case. Now, the reason I believe the Super League has come into play is not only for financial gain, of course, because we'd be stupid not to think that, but also it is what they want to create, this sort of elitist league. Now, I don't agree with the closure of it. I believe it should be open technically to all champions of Europe, personally. But then, tying into the Champions League format, it's getting convoluted, more teams. I think it's losing its charm, its pizzazz that the Champions League possesses. So that's my short take on it.
Yeah, DJ, do you what do you think? Well, I mean, we remember when Champions League were great. We remember the exciting stuff with the Champions League when we played Manchester United in two games, and it was very, very tight games. It was very exciting. The fans were crazy, and one, of course, the 2003 final against Milan, which unfortunately, of course, we lost. I mean, all those Champions League glory nights. We kind of look forward to them. I'm looking forward to facing Real Madrid once a season. I'm looking forward to facing, Liverpool, for example, because it doesn't happen every season, especially with the history, especially from the 1985. The fact that they eliminated us back in the day, 2005 or 2006 or something, and now this passion, this excitement is about to go away with the Super League. Do you feel the same, or is just it's always fun to play Real Madrid every week? I don't know. What's your take?
Well, Roman, like we were chatting the other day, I think there's a new social paradigm here. The internet has changed so much by way of attention span, by way of exposure, the way people interact with electronic media. I'm not so sure that the Super League is, apart from money, I'm not so sure it's really created for legacy fan. Of course, we're going to enjoy great novelty for the first couple of years where you're playing a Liverpool or a Madrid or a Barca every weekend. But then that novelty kind of wears off. It has a higher factor. You're playing at that level consistently. Players burn out, coaches burn out. The Champions League has an element of romance for a legacy fan. You're anticipating who you're going to play through the group stages, and then you go through a draw for the knockouts. All of that has a certain romance to it, but that's what it is for the fan, But like Auber was saying, these clubs effectively today are business models. They're corporations. They don't think about the fans. They think about the bottom line. To quote what Marotta said earlier this week, 70% of that money that they're spending is salaries alone, with no guaranteed income in the pandemic. So what a corporate business model? How do you pivot from here? The Super League is as far as I see it, is not really a product for the legacy fan. I see it as a slightly more evolved. They will have to evolve the model. Perez spoke about shorter games because you're probably dealing with the TikTok generation. So these are people, again, that are all about the optics. It's about, having referees with mics, very NFL style, talking to the spectators. It's where you brand your club. We're already, like I said, we're already ahead of that curve, with what we've done with our logo, which is more digital friendly. And I think the Super League would kind of also insinuate that. You'd have like probably 70-minute games. You'd probably have a Mercato system, which is like a draft-based setup, to have some kind of parity as to who comes in and which club has what kind of access. There would have to be, again, economic parity for those 12 clubs. But what I don't quite enjoy about it is we're talking about this being only for the elite clubs. Then we're a little hypocritical because, like I was saying, where is Ajax? So this is just about whoever is going to bring you the JP Morgan money, and that means it's open to the likes of Tottenham. And that is the way forward, which is again not really a legacy fan. And I hate the way that everybody who exited apologized to their fans. I just see so much hypocrisy. I also don't like the way the clubs create this because they forget that that it's an open competition, and the pedestal that each of these clubs are on today has come from open competition. Which is, I think, letdown. I kind of see where it's coming from the money people. I understand they need some kind of economic parity, but I feel the truth is somewhere in the middle. Between the Super League and between the Champions League, there needs to be, some middle ground.
Graham, question. UEFA. We haven't even really talked about the UEFA. I don't think they are very saints, are they?
No, they're corrupt. They're all corrupt. But like Ellie said earlier, it's a lesser of two evils. I think I'm pretty sure that's what he said. But like, for me anyway, the Champions League and UEFA is a lesser of two evils. I mean, you want to talk about corruption, you can't get more corrupt than having a handful of clubs running and owning basically a league or a cup format, whatever. They're only going to look out for themselves and absolutely nobody else. I mean, with the Super League, like, the execution was absolutely diabolical, but it was a closed league. It was a closed group for a group of so-called elite clubs and friends. Which is what they would have been, and then they would pick and choose who gets to play along with them every year or once a year, whatever it would have been. And in the end, it would have benefited them and them alone. At least with UEFA, like, they have got responsibility of everyone in Europe. I mean, yeah, like when you watch the Champions League, 9 times out of 10, you think to yourself, you're going to get Real Madrid, or Bayern Munich, or maybe Man City, whoever else, in the semi-finals or the final, or even winning it. But there is always a possibility of an underdog going deep in the tournament or upsets or stuff like that. I mean, look at us as an example: Ajax, Lyon, and Porto. I mean, if you put those names on paper against Juventus on those seasons, you would have said Juventus and Ronaldo are going to win those games, but it didn't happen. Same with Atalanta when they reached the quarterfinals the previous season. So you would have lost all of that with a Super League. But UEFA, they're not saints. There is no good guy in this scenario. It's basically bad guy v bad guy.
Yeah, it is. Ile, if you see the comment from the chat here in regards to the smaller sides facing bigger sides, of course, when we play smaller sides, there are more chances for the bigger sides to win, and it basically becomes more, well, a standard expectation of us winning against this smaller sides. Bayern Munich, if they are facing, I don't know, well, let's say Molde from Norway, they're going to be battered 100%. But do you agree with this is more of a boring, as I said previously, it's much more exciting to play against Real Madrid every week rather than playing against Ferencváros, Molde, I don't know, Ajax, Feyenoord, whoever. Tottenham, yeah. What do you think about this, Ile?
I think in my personal opinion, as a football fan, I wouldn't mind the so-called easy game or the small games, especially in the Champions League, because these games give you a chance to see players you've never heard of or teams you've never heard of, and that's the beauty of football. The underdog to cause an upset. I mean, we all remember Leicester when they won the Premier League. That was the most beautiful football story probably in the last 10 years, I guess. So, these kind of games I'm interested in on a personal level, on a football level. Of course, if you're going to talk on an economic level or money-wise, these games are not important. They are important for the small teams because they get exposure and all that stuff. But for the big teams, they couldn't care less. So I think on a personal level, I wouldn't mind watching these games. But I have to add something when we were speaking about UEFA, because the UEFA president, Seferin, I guess he's called, if I'm not mistaken, he was saying that the Super League teams made a mistake by joining the league and quitting the Champions League, and it's okay to admit that they made mistake, and we will welcome them back and all that stuff. But I really think that because of the project, because of that, the collapse of that project, UEFA should really open their eyes, and he should be the one who apologizes now, because as we said, we know that UEFA are corrupt. We know that they give tickets, especially in the finals, in an unfair way. We know that the financial fair play have never been fair. Like when was the last time a team was punished through financial fair play. You know, teams are signing players like they are nothing, and especially FIFA. You know, we haven't spoken about FIFA yet, but if we take, for example, the World Cup, the upcoming World Cup, I mean, it's the first World Cup that will be played in winter time. Like, why? Besides that, it was bought by Qatar, and basically they won the rights to hold this World Cup without even having the infrastructure needed for that. They built the whole thing from scratch, you know, in an unhuman way and all of that stuff. But FIFA and UEFA are the most corrupted here. I know the Super League is not a great idea if we look at it that way, but you know, it's not like UEFA have done anything right in the last couple of years. And I think, you know, that they should really open their eyes and do something about that, because it's not healthy to continue like that. Yeah, and what even is more, you know, upsetting for me especially is when I saw the way PSG were treated like heroes on social media, you know, especially Twitter, because they were also a team that did not accept to participate. But the truth is that their chairman, you know, is the guy from the N Sports, which is also a Qatari owned company. And you know, because I lived in Lebanon, I used to be subscribed to the N Sports, and I can assure you that they don't care about you know, us fans watching football or anything like that. The subscription rates are crazy, and all they care about is money. So, you know, and now he's I guess replaced Agnelli in UEFA executive committee, no? The PSG president. So
yes, he just became the president of the ECA. Yeah, correct. The Nasser or something. Nasser. Yeah. One question to all of you. Mirgan has a question. What did UEFA do to protect small teams when the money from oil came to football? And this is, of course, a big discussion and a big topic because suddenly we know Chelsea appeared, Man City appeared, and PSG appeared as well. Auber, let's go to you. What's your answer?
Yeah,
Nothing,
I
guess.
I find it very hypocritical, to be honest with you. When you see these English fans moaning about the American ownership and Arsenal, yet they've won Champions League, they've won their Premiership title, buying the best players in the world, you know. And it's just, you know, the one thing, just to go to this point without detracting too far from the question, what I've witnessed in the last 5 days is the highest level hypocrisy that you can imagine, right, from all parties, right, from the Super League side, from UEFA, but mainly from UEFA, to be honest with you. And I'll be honest with the fans themselves from the Premiership, right, the shouting to protect the money. Unfortunately, you know, you could have an oil magnate coming in and buying out a small team like Sassuolo or Fiorentina, and then suddenly they explode on the scene like Chelsea. With all due respect, Chelsea, for me, is not a big team. Right? I don't know what they were doing in the Super League, first and foremost. Man City are not a big team. They are nothing. And I'm not being disrespectful, but let's be honest. Man United, when you look at Alex Ferguson back in the 80s, he was almost sacked. Right? He had a first couple of hard seasons. He didn't have the banking of millions, 100 million to spend on 3 defenders, 100 million. He broke from the youth team. He pinched players like Pallister. You know, you got these people on the cheap. Now, I know football has evolved and it's changed, and I appreciate that conversation. But I think if we look at the whole protection, the whole thing with Super League was to protect the old guard, the Madrid, the Juventus. If you look at the teams who are in there, it's the old guard protection. Now, the smaller teams, unfortunately, you can draw the paradigm to the business world. Small companies just don't survive. They just have to be content with what they have. You know, you think about the mobile industry. They can't compete with Apple or Samsung. Just can't compete. All these other small mobile companies, no one has heard of it. Like Kubot, Chinese company, no one's heard of it. Fantastic phone, but no one uses it. They just use Apple. It's very hard to compete. The only way a small team, or what I call grassroots football, can grow is the trickle-down effect of the pyramid scheme of the money. But unfortunately, we've all said this, and we all admit to this. We know this. Well, not factual, but it's clear. It's corrupt. The money doesn't get to those small grass teams. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And that's the problem. And there's the issue. If the football, the proceeds, the money from UEFA goes through to each organization or association of football for each European country, and you can see the stimulus through grassroots football. I'm talking about Serie D, Serie C, the smaller clubs, just to keep them going up and producing young talent, building a community. That's where you see the money. I don't see it. I am anti-UEFA. I'm anti-FIFA. I find them absolutely. Small teams, unfortunately, are the victims. Even in the Super League, they would have been victims, and in UEFA. So,
indeed. Proboshenko says that he is from Poland and they did nothing with the Polish teams. Yeah, there we go. This is a perfect example there. Yeah, I can also say the same thing probably about the Russians and the Norwegian clubs as well. Nothing. It's UEFA is like it's a badge you have on your jersey to the side. It's the UEFA. It says UEFA, but what does it actually mean? It means that probably you have to abide by the rules, refereeing rules, basically, and that's it. And financial fair play, whatever that is, but not much more. So yes, I agree. I agree 100%. But you touched on it, Auber. I'm going to go to DJ about this. What defines a big club? Because Auber said that he doesn't think that Manchester City is a big club, and neither is Chelsea. But what is a big club? What's the definition of a big club?
I think, Roman, that there has to be some kind of legacy with regard to a continued timeline of success. The parameters are very defined. You're winning within your domestic league, you're winning in Europe. And I think there has to be some kind of parameter in terms of how long you've continued to do that. We're clear. I think we're all on the same page as far as how corrupt all regulation is in European football at the moment. When I look at like a Man City, I think, truth be told, I think they're a well-run club from the inside. Everything that I saw on Amazon Prime with All or Nothing. But do they deserve the kind of influx that they got into the money, the limited sponsorship through Etihad, and UEFA just turning a blind eye? No, I think that's not fair. So when I look at a legacy club, I think of the likes of everything that we've grown up with in the 90s. When there was really, it was even throughout. You had to dig into your youth system. You had to be really resourceful with not just buying stars. You had to create stars. Every legacy team really had to create some kind of identity, kind of football that they play. Juve, for example, we sold Zidane to buy players like Thuram, Buffon, and create a more compact unit. You're selling a global star at the time, who incidentally we created after buying from Bordeaux. So, that's the kind of football that I think we've now transitioned from, where everybody now has the capability to be a star playing in a big team. They come with a certain price point. I mean, it's obscene when you see Mbappe and Neymar on the same team. I just think there's just so much disparity when you look at every club that PSG has to play here on in. It's not just playing young boys. It's also playing Juve, for example. There's just never going to be that kind of parity. And I think that's where UEFA have kind of dropped the ball a little bit. Where do you draw the line between ensuring that the old guard kind of preserves the legacy that they have worked so hard to achieve, through fair open play, when money wasn't in the system.
I want to show you something. I showed this video before. And let's see if I can find this again. I hope I can find it. No, there we go. This is Andrea Agnelli giving the arguments to going forward with Serie A, which I find is quite interesting. I don't know if you probably have seen this, guys, but I will show this once again.
Don't know about you guys, but I can't hear a thing.
There's no sound, Roman.
There's no sound.
No sound. You might have to put on mute.
Why no sound?
Just by the way, everyone, when you see that video, there is a moment there that Agnelli rubs his hands like some sort of oil magnet ready for the catch. Honestly, you just want me to not too dreamy hand composition when you're talking. Really, it's like, yes, you know, give me the money, boys.
Man, I will find this. Let's see. There we go. Let's try again.
We have to put the fan at the center of our thinking going forward, because the current system most likely is not delivering for the modern fan. Research shows that many traditional assumptions about fans need to change. If we look at research, we can say 1/3 of fans globally follow at least 2 clubs, and that is very different from just a few years ago. 10% of the fans follow players, not clubs. 2/3 follow football more for a modern fear, the fear of missing out, FOMO, or just because they like big events. Most alarmingly, though, 40% of the 16 to 24, the famous Gen Z, have no interest in football whatsoever. What does this say? Most likely, there are too many games that are simply uncompetitive. In this, I mean at both a domestic level and at international level. Fans cannot be taken for granted, and we have to deliver the best possible competition for them, or we risk of losing them. And that's why I welcome the conversations that we as ECA have had for the development of the game, both on and off the pitch.
And then 24 hours later, he was fired from ECA. Oh, but yeah, this is an interesting video there from Agnelli. Graham, let's go to you, my friend. He spoke a little bit about the next generation, 16 to 24-year-olds who basically aren't interested in football anymore because there are too many boring games. Yeah, is this true?
Well, for a start, Mr. Agnelli needs to pay less attention to Twitter. That's what my advice would be to him. It's a whole joke when him and Agnelli and Florentino Perez come out with this garbage where, 16 to 21-year-olds or whatever the age bracket is are less interested in football, etc., etc. Well, if that's the case, you tell me, what the hell is FIFA and Pro Evolution Soccer aimed at? Because I'm sure as hell isn't aimed at adults or legacy fans. It's aimed at children, teenagers. They're more likely to spend their money on Ultimate Team and football games, video games. Yet he's talking like saying there's little interest in football. There's always going to be interest in football. But the point is, some people just will never be interested in football. It's as simple as that. I mean, when I went to school, right? Newsflash, I went to school in the 90s and the early 90s. I knew plenty of people that were not interested in football, but no one at the time spoke about young people not being interested in it. There was plenty of my friends, they wouldn't play it, they wouldn't watch it, but I would. But that didn't mean that it was a dying breed or the game was in trouble. I mean, we're talking early 90s here, it's 2021 now, and now they're starting to talk about supposedly younger fans are losing interest, etc., etc., but I just don't believe that. I just think he needs to pay less attention to what people on Twitter are saying, especially the modern fan. It's like I have never in my life met someone in person that supported a football player over a football club. I mean, they would just be laughed at, sorry. The same with supporting 2 or 3 football clubs. I can understand that to a certain degree. There's plenty of people that they support their local team, a small little local team, and usually a bigger club like a Juventus or a Bayern. Say like, Stirling Albion, a tiny little Scottish third division club. Someone would support that locally while supporting a bigger club. I can understand that, but like the whole notion of supporting Real Madrid, Juventus, and Manchester City, it's like, get lost.
So do you think,
also, guys, what constitutes a boring game? How we define what a boring game is. Just because on paper it's Juve playing Benevento, it's meant to be boring. Because the last I checked, it was anything but boring. To lose Benevento. These definitions are being very conveniently curbed. In terms of what suits the Super League and what suits the Champions League. I think really the fan is the one suffering as a result of this, because as far as competition goes, every Super League club has come through the merit of open competition to be where it is today. They should never forget that.
Yeah, and I mean, why don't they just look at the stadiums? The stadiums are always full during matches. You can't tell me fans are not interested anymore if the stadiums are remaining to be full. Especially in the Bundesliga, even in the second Bundesliga, the stadiums are always full. Besides Manchester City and some teams that they don't have enough fans maybe to fill their stadium, but. That's an easier statistics to look at. As long as the stadium is full, the fans are happy, the game is all right, I think.
Well, the thing with stadiums is really quite interesting because ever since, and we're not going to diverse to Cristiano Ronaldo here, but ever since Cristiano Ronaldo arrived at Juventus, there were criticism towards Juventus board, especially because the stadium became quieter. In terms of the ticket prices increased, and of course the rumors of ultras not being there anymore in the stadium because of their connections with the board. So at this, well, of course now there are no fans at all. But when we had fans after Cristiano arrived, the ticket prices increased. I'm not saying it's because of Cristiano, but it's very, very much plausible, and it became quieter. And we said this also on Monday. When you go to English Premier League game, you see more tourists than you see actual fans. You are there just to see, well, say Cristiano, Messi, Kevin De Bruyne, whoever. You are not a hardcore fan in terms of, and it defines a hardcore fan. Basically, you know the songs, you sing along, you cheer like crazy, but there are more phones and cameras rather than the passion from the stands. So this was a change when Cristiano arrived, at least for you. I don't know how it is with other clubs when the big stars and the ticket prices increased, but and also of course Arsenal have been criticized heavily for their ticket prices. I think they are the most expensive in the world, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I once read that the season ticket in Bayern to watch Bayern home games, the full season is equal to a ticket to watch Arsenal at the Etihad for one game only.
Wow. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, and we can see that because we see that yellow wall at Dortmund. This is a passion. I'm still impressed when Juve went to Signal Iduna Park and literally pissed all over Dortmund, 3-0 I think away against that yellow wall, with Carlos Tevez being absolutely insane and Morata actually scoring. So I remember that, but also I remember the pre-game when the players come out to the pitch. You see that yellow wall, and you know what? I don't see that anywhere else because there is none the same passion. And this is why I respect the Bundesliga so much, because of the passion. And as you said as well, the second Bundesliga, full. Stadiums are full. Look at Serie B. I mean, this is a Provinciale. What is this? I mean, we basically have any fans, and there are fans, but I mean, they're more like families of players rather than actual fans.
But to note as well, the flip side of this conversation is that, like for example, Coppa Italia games, Juve do promote ticket sales to women and children, so almost oriented to the family, right? So to get like a whole family going, and I'm talking about really like 12 euros a ticket. That how cheap that is, a cup game, right? Okay, albeit it won't be against Milan or any other big teams, right? But the point is, ticket prices. You talk about season ticket holders, everything. I'll be honest with you. Madrid, for example, look at Madrid, the Muro Blanco. That's a paid fan base sitting behind the wall, chanting their team out. And I won't be surprised. I can't speak for the German league, but I can say for sure, I'm certain Juve, Agnelli, because the ultras were banned 4 years ago, and it misses. I mean, I used to, when I was a kid, I used to go to Dall'Alpi, and you had flares, you had flags, it was chaotic, but it was what you saw on the telly. And the fact of the matter is, it is dead, the stadium. Speaking to people that go there, it's flat. What Agnelli would probably most likely do is copy the model of Madrid, pay fans to sit behind the goal, maybe call the Bianconero Muro, and they chant their music, and that's it. It's like an organized choir for that. But with ticket prices, I absolutely disagree with Agnelli with regards to the dying fans. I tried to get tickets last year before COVID, actually, so it was the year before, to watch a game. I couldn't get tickets. So I don't know what he's banging on about, because the tickets all sold out. And the fact is, they went from 69,000 to 41,000. So you've kind of almost cut half your capacity, and you're still telling me that fans are not interested. Absolute. Yeah, I went through. Yeah.
Go on. No, I was just thinking the other day also about another subject, not also the price of the tickets, but like for example in the Coppa Italia, didn't you guys play a game, the final, I guess, in Saudi Arabia or like another country besides Italy? Like, what's that all about? Why should we go to yeah, exactly.
Yes. Indeed. Yes, and we have. I mean, even we have been criticizing this stuff. I remember. You guys probably remember this Trofeo Berlusconi. It was a nonsense trophy, but it was fun. It was fun to play against Merda and against Milan, just for fun, just for kicks. And of course, the Via Pirosa game before the start of the season. It's like a part of the tradition. These games, Trofeo Berlusconi, the Via Pirosa, and now we are going suddenly to Doha and playing Napoli.
Yeah.
Roman, just to that point, I think what we have to understand is when we're talking about the Trofeo Berlusconi, you're talking about a very different social media existence. It was. There was no social media at the time. I think the way it's kind of redefined what football is to people today in terms of access, the kind of access it's created, and that is why you have phenom like Ronaldo, who is a phenom on the field, but he's a phenom on Instagram as well. Which is what adds to the spectacle for creating a fan base outside of Italy and going and playing this tournament. Really, you're creating spectacle in Qatar or Dubai or Doha, whatever. Social media has a lot to do with it. I think social media also has a lot to do with the creation of the Super League.
Yeah. Graham, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. In regards to Cristiano, do you think that if we have, as a fan base, became bigger because of Cristiano, so we have more Cristiano fans that follow Cristiano, and this is why the social media factor that the DJ is talking about, that if it hadn't been for Cristiano, not many, we hadn't had that many followers, which means also that we wouldn't get as much revenue. Is this more it's becoming more of a player focus? You have to buy that player or this player. Remember when we got the guy from North Korea? Was this because he was in North Korea, not because he was exactly a good talent, but because we were looking for marketing opportunities? Of course, Cristiano is a great player. He's one of the GOATs, no doubt about it. But there was also an off the pitch factor there, of course.
Well, I think regarding Cristiano Ronaldo, it was two birds, one stone. Sign Ronaldo, you get a talented player. You get one of the best players in the world, and the massive, monumental merchandise and commercial value of Ronaldo as well. Make no mistake, I think despite what Agnelli said about Ronaldo was brought in to win the Champions League, etc., I think Ronaldo was mainly brought in because, the amount of money and eyes and attention he can bring on the club. Because, I've had discussions in the past about this with Auber as well. Both of us have commented that before Ronaldo arrived, we barely ever seen anyone wearing a Juventus shirt where we live. And then all of a sudden you would see a kid walking by with Ronaldo Juventus. And we never had that before Ronaldo arrived. So I think it was definitely off the pitch stuff as well. But whether or not it was the success that they expected, that's debatable.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you got Pirlo as a coach. Maybe the club didn't have enough money to get a more pro coach, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually my opinion on why we ended up with Pirlo, because I don't know the exact figure, but it was a lot of money to get rid of Sarri and his staff. And then pandemic COVID hits. So, best case scenario, let's promote someone in the system without having to pay them. Without having to sign them. They can just keep him on the same wages potentially and give him the manager's role of the first team for 1 year. What's the worst that could happen? Potentially not qualify for Champions League.
Going back to Super League, or Super League rather, Auber, for example. What is the next step now? What do you think is going to happen? Are we going back to like nothing has happened? Do you think there will be consequences for example, for Agnelli?
Well, there is talk about UEFA trying to ban Madrid in this Champions League season and to heavily fine Madrid. I don't know why, because obviously they're the face of it, but they forget there are other teams that were involved in the Super League to ban Juve and Madrid. With all due respect, I don't think that's going to happen. The Champions League without Madrid, it's like it's like having, I don't know, it's not feasible for them, right? Going forward, what is apparent? Football does need to change the format it is. I mean, I'm talking about domestically, European, and there's this hypocrisy of the UEFA saved football, the fans have saved football. Please don't live in a naive bubble. No one saved football. All you've done is shift the paradigm of power from a breakaway league, because they want to do their own league, to a new members club. You're back to the old members club, and now they look good. And I think we all agree on that point. I think going forward, we look at the format of Champions League, the new change. Again, I don't think that's going to work. I think it just dilutes the game even further. But that's just my opinion. I cannot see it to be put into the ground European Super League. It will come back. I won't be surprised in about 2, 3, maybe 4 years from now, there will be a new format break away from UEFA. I think Bayern Munich, for example, the powerhouse they are, I think the way these guys have done it I just don't think it's done properly, the way this approached. And the next attempt, the next coup, whatever you want to call it, it will happen. It's just evolution. We talked about football, how it's changed from what it was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's going to change. And the fans, they're going to have to see, they will see this change happen. And I am certain of it. In about 3-4 years from now, there will be a new format, breakaway from UEFA. But a more consolidated approach, rather than this members club closure, only the top rich clubs. I think they've learned their lessons. They've burnt their hands on this one. I won't be surprised we'll see a new league start in 3-4 years from now.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, let's.
Yeah, go ahead. It's okay.
Well, I was saying also, let's not forget, all of these clubs have now tasted blood. They know exactly what they're dealing with in terms of, people getting involved, with the fans getting involved, with the governments getting involved. They know exactly what they're up against. So I think the second coming is going to be a lot more consolidated. It's going to be a lot stronger. I think there's going to be a lot of time to reflect, even for the likes of Bayern Munich, who weren't part of this first edition. I do feel that the second coming is going to be one that's here to stay in the long term.
Ili, go ahead.
I was just agreeing, with the change that something must change. We know that, and I agree. Even Perez said that. I agree with the idea that football must change, but I don't agree with how he interpreted change. He said, let's make football games shorter. Maybe he was going to propose halftime show with Beyonce or something. This is, not the Super Bowl. But the question I'm asking myself is that when Perez spoke about the Super League, he was so confident that no team can quit the Super League, and they all signed a pre-agreement, and if they quit, they will pay the penalty of, I don't know, 335 million or something like that. And what's happened to that? We don't see anyone speaking about that anymore. I don't know if he was just trying to.
Because at the bottom of the contract, it says a little, with a small writing. It says the bank account number to Perez. So you never know. It's just the money going directly to Mr. Perez, Papa Perez.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's interesting.
But the Super League. One of the things I would, of course, I do my day job, they do their job, but clearly they failed. Right? It's a failed attempt, a failed coup, if you want to call it. If they had gone the other approach to include every single champions of Europe league, so I'm talking about from Poland to Hungary, Bulgaria, entire European spectrum, and then it could show Graham's a big fan of the underdog against the Real Madrid, so you can have the champions of Cyprus, for example, playing against Real Madrid and maybe beat them. So you've got your David Goliath moment. I think that formula, that structure could have worked. But when they said, it's just the big boys club and it's closed club and you guys can come in, but you can't get the same money, then it painted an awful picture. And that didn't work. So, like I said, I came back to the previous point. We had a bit of clash on views on this one. But for me, not to make it an elitist, but Champions League, for me, should be the top two teams in every single European division. Romania, the whole lot.
That's why it's called Champions League.
Well, yeah, but I don't know why Celtic, Graham mentioned this right before in the past, why Celtic or Rangers, for example, have to go through, or Ajax, have to go 3 qualifications. For Christ's sake, they've won the Champions League. They should have earned the right if they're the champions of Holland. It should be, I want to watch the champions play. I don't want, with all due respect, I don't want to watch Juve playing a team that's 4th or finished 4th in England or 3rd in, I don't know, just argument's sake, 3rd in Ukraine. Listen, I want to see the champions. That's why it's called Champions League. And that's why I believe, to DJ's point, that's why I strongly believe that there will be a shift in this football. Right now, obviously, they're doing the format change. It's not going to work. And I can see it going that way, hopefully.
Yeah, 100%, especially since I'm a Bundesliga fan, I totally agree because, every year we have Dortmund and Bayern competing in the Champions League, and the other teams like Bayer Leverkusen, or Neverkusen, as they call them, or Gladbach, or Leipzig are doing great as of late. But, the other teams, the 3rd and the 4th and the lower teams, they never did anything in the Champions League. I don't think they should have the right to play in the Champions League. I agree with that.
If you go to Africa or Asia or America, they don't know who was the champion of Cyprus or Poland, but they know these teams of the Super League. It's all about the money and the views.
Well, I'm pretty sure they would have known who the champions of Cyprus was when Apoel knocked out Lyon and were playing Real Madrid in 2010-11 in the Champions League knockout stage. So it is possible. You do get cases like that. You do get cases like that.
Yes, you do. But I get the point from the greatest 89er. The views and of course the random person from Asia or Africa, they don't necessarily know who Apoel Tel Aviv is. But then again, this is I'm going back to the excitement of the fixture. I'm going back to the excitement of the game between Bayern Munich and Juventus. I mean, if I watch Bayern Munich against Juve every season for the third time in a row, I mean, how boring is that? And to top it off, also, if you watch the Premier League, you have the FA Cup, you have the League Cup, you have the Premier League, and then you have the Super League. Chelsea against Liverpool are going to play against each other 10 times during one season if they are drawn together, for example. That's the worst case scenario. But let's say it happens. Yeah, I just cannot see that being interesting for a neutral fan.
Just to the point, by the way, about the Cyprus. If I'm just as hypothetical, because it's all hypothetical. If the champions of Cyprus was to play against Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, one of the two best teams in Europe, I can guarantee you, hand on heart, the next day it will make the news round the entire of the football world, right to Australia, to South America, to all corners of the world. Don't they want that? I'm just saying. They'll probably get hammered 5-0, 6-0. But if, in the chance they do beat the Goliath, there's your story. There's the magic of Champions League football right there.
Even I remember because in the qualifiers, in the national qualifiers, I support Germany and we lost at home to North Macedonia the other day, and everyone went crazy on social media. I mean, that's the same in the Champions League, for example, if you were playing Nicosia or a lesser team.
And also the thing with remember Greece when they won the Euros in 2004.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I mean, that was crappy football. That was the worst. Cristiano even cried in the final. But it was. This is something we still remember. To be quite honest, hand on heart, right now, I do not remember who won in 2008, but I do remember. Thank you. But I do not. But I do remember Greece. Because of how it happened. It's underdog. I do remember Leicester. I do remember who coached Leicester. It's something great. And of course, for the neutral fan who sits in the couch and eats his popcorn and doesn't care less, of course, it's much more fun to watch Real Madrid against Bayern Munich every game, every week. Yes, but if you're really passionate about football, if you imagine if I'm sitting in the couch and I'm eating my popcorn and then I see Apoel Nicosia beat Bayern Munich. I'm sorry, just an example. Bayern Munich 3-0. I see the officials from the club, the players, the medical staff, the fans. I see them rejoicing. I see them storming the pitch. I see the passion from that small club. And that makes me happy. Of course, if I'm a Juve fan and we're losing against this smaller side, I will be pissed. But then I also see the fact that here is great, authentic joy. Not built by money, not built by TV views or TV rights, but built by pure passion. Those little piece of crap club won against the mighty, huge, elite team.
Yeah, and it happened this season to a so-called super team, Dinamo Zagreb and Tottenham.
Wow.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, Porto against Juve.
Won't go that far. Porto are Champions League winners. So
Porto are a big club.
But you see, what you mentioned there, Roman, it's a great balance, right? So in the early stages of football, fine, it might appeal to the legacy, what DJ would refer to, the legacy footballers, right? The older school, right? That kind of David Goliath. When it goes to the second stage, and you've got Madrid against Liverpool or Madrid against Bayern, now it's the sexy stuff that people are waiting for. But that second round, quarterfinal, semis, they can enjoy the rest of the tournament, right? So it appeals to the masses, and that's, to me, that is the spirit that you mentioned. It's the spirit of the game, the spirit of football, about having a dream. Like there was a comment there about Porto winning back in 2004, Mourinho. I will always remember when he'd go across with his knees. I hate Mourinho, by the way, but he goes across his knees, across the field. That to me sticks, that image. Porto team, it's a beautiful story, a beautiful story about football. Football won at that day, not money, and this is the thing that people are talking about.
The gap between the clubs is small and getting bigger. The big clubs and small ones is getting bigger and bigger. Just look at the French league and the Bundesliga, PSG and Bayern or Juve. Yes, that is true. DJ, your comment on this one?
Well, I'm not really sure that the French league is getting any richer. It's really PSG in a league of their own. I think Bayern are a very well-regulated club, and Juve are doing the same, but both kind of in isolation in their own respective leagues. So really, it's the likes of Juve and Bayern, and the gap with clubs that are playing in England, for example. I think that gap is going to continue to get bigger till you find some kind of middle ground. Yes, the Super League isn't the answer, but we're all waiting for it. To Auber's point, I think very correctly, I feel like the Super League is going to be, or whatever they want to call it, is going to come in the next 2-3, maybe before the 24 Champions League edition. And that really is the only way forward to save really the old guard. You think of, okay, we're just mentioning Juve at the moment, but think of a Milan, for example. Look at their success in Europe, but they're wiped off the planet at the moment. How do they stay relevant to the game? It's near impossible till there's some kind of economic reform. So I completely understand that all of us are fans of the romance of the game. It is the beautiful game for the fan, but these they don't think like that. They don't really care about us. They are corporations at the end of the day, and they're going to care about what the bottom line suggests to them.
Yeah. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bayern because there are a lot of comments in the chat before about Bayern Munich and their transfer strategy. They buy all the good players from the competitors, so they're clearly the favorites. The greatest 89er says. What is actually the status in Bundesliga? I've always wondered, and the criticism towards Bayern has been from the neutral standpoint that Bayern basically, if they sense some competition, they just buy their best players and that's it, and then they win the next season again, and all is well and good again. And basically, the Bundesliga is being dominated mostly by Bayern.
Yeah, but look, if there's a big player at another club and he wanted to join us, why not? They always ask me this question, like Bayern always steal the good player from the Bundesliga and all this stuff. But we're competing in Europe as well, and we want to remain at a high level. And by policy, we don't buy players, like Real Madrid or Manchester City, or just splash money everywhere. We try to buy in lesser amounts of money, but I don't think they do it on purpose. I don't think, and even Rummenigge said it a couple of times, that they have a good relationship with Dortmund, and they have a good relationship with other Bundesliga teams, because that happened when we bought Götze and Lewandowski from Dortmund. But if the player wants to move, what do you tell him? No, sorry, I can't. I will not offer because you play for another team in the same league. I don't think that that's the case. I don't know, but because I'm a Bayern fan. I'm supposed to think like that. I don't know what you guys think, but imagine in Serie A, for example, you have a great players in Milan and Inter and other teams, and Juve are interested in signing these players, and they did. They signed Chiesa and Fernandeschi, I guess he's called, and other players, from different teams in Serie A. I didn't see anyone, attack them or why are you stealing good players from other teams. But the truth is, in every league you have a big team, which is historically or the one that should represent you in Europe. And I think that's the case with Bayern.
Yeah, I think very fortunately, Eli, you've just got like the ecosystem really is very conducive to Bayern staying competitive, not only in the Bundes, but in Europe as well. They are by some margin the biggest hub in Germany. So when you go looking to buy a player, really, you don't have much competition because you're also the biggest brand for any player in a lower club, they're aspiring to join a Munich. I think the second thing that really is in your favor is that kind of also curtails your running cost, so to speak. It's easier to structure your transfer dealings. It's easier to create a salary cap. You're buying within the system. And when you don't have as much competition, even on the field, if your season domestically over by much, it primes you very nicely to stay competitive in Europe. So it's a good place for Bayern to be. But I think what is most authentic about Bayern as a club is from the ground up all the way, all the way up. They've got sporting people, running the system. They know the game. They understand the fans. The transfer policy suggests that you're not buying haphazard because you're not looking for an opportunity. You're buying a player that you need, that fits into a system on the field, which is, I think, very admirable, and I think which is what has reaped benefits consistently for you guys in Europe.
From a Juventino, whilst I had the pleasure to speak to a Bayern fan.
I know what you're going to say, by the way.
I very, very much would like to have Brazzo back at Juventus. Your sporting director, I want him. I want him back. And you know what? I got massacred by your Bayern fan, which is fair enough. I said, Brazzo, come back home. I said, what home? He's home at Bayern. Now I hear rumors that he's it's a bit unrested. I think the man behind the scene is the man who's pulling all those strings, and I think Brazzo's fantastic what he's done at your club. Fantastic, I think, from outside.
Although he's getting criticized a lot, especially with the situation with Flick going on, and
Flick, yeah.
I also heard the rumor that Juventus are thinking of hiring Flick. Is that true?
We're linked with everyone.
Yeah. It won't work, guys. It just won't work. Flick would flop. Massively.
Imagine Flick talking Italian. I mean, no.
From the side.
Indeed, yes. But what is the? I mean, the structure of the club. You have, as you said, the sporting people. But also, what is the ownership? The ownership is also the fans, isn't it?
Yeah, because of the 50+1 rule, the DFB doesn't allow you to compete in the Bundesliga if you have a foreign investor with more than 49% stake ownership. So that plays a huge role, and I think that every time something happens, and for example, when they introduced Monday football in the Bundesliga, the fans went crazy. Why are we playing Monday night just for you to get more money? And they protested. And as I remember, the FB heard them, and they said they were working on that schedule stuff and something like that. But you don't see that in England, for example. Or you see that in England, fans do protest, but I don't think anyone listened to them. So, unfortunately, because once again, the German teams don't treat the fans as normal people or customers. They treat them as fans, and that's why the ticket prices are low, and there are so many facilities that are not and other found in other leagues. So yeah,
it is interesting what's happening with Bundesliga. It's as we said, I think all we can agree with the fact that we respect what Bayern is doing, and especially with Brazzo and how they're competing on international level as well. And fortunately for you, they are not through to the semifinals in the Champions League this season, but maybe you will be, because the guys will be excluded from the Champions League, and then you'll be right back.
That's why I even hate UEFA more now, because of their stupid schedule and games, and that's why, besides that, the Poland coach played Lewandowski against Andorra, but due to these games, Lewandowski got injured and Serge Gnabry got infected, got the COVID. Due to the UEFA schedule, if we had these players playing against PSG, I guess it would have been a different story. We dominated the game, but we were missing this couple of key players in front of goal, especially. So, unfortunately,
It was a fantastic game, the second leg, though, I gotta say.
Oh, brilliant. Top draw. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was so intense.
But the thing is, let's talk about this for a second, because it's also interesting. There has been criticism towards UEFA that the schedules during the pandemic has been horrendous. It's been too tight, too many players injured, and nobody even cared. And of course, we know perfectly well about this COVID situation in Italy. There are players infected with COVID, but then suddenly they postpone the game, and then the next game, oh, it's okay, we play. Like with the Juve Napoli disaster. I don't know. What is your take on this one? And of course, I want to know why this is even allowed. And I guess to a degree, I understand Agnelli being pissed off about UEFA and Schäferin, because they are the ones who created this mess. Of course, not the COVID, but how the fixtures are built up, and the fact that we have to play Champions League games every Wednesday or Tuesday, not postponing it a little bit, just giving the players some rest. It's a mess from my side. But I don't know, guys, what do you think? Who wants it? Let's go to Graham.
Danilo.
I mean, the whole UEFA fixture list was absolute garbage anyway from the beginning. I mean, what the hell is the purpose of international friendlies during a pandemic? What is the purpose? And Lewandowski got injured. You had players testing positive for COVID, and we had Bonucci. At one point, it was Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm pretty sure, last year. But it felt like every time you were approaching the international games, you were just holding your breath to say, oh, God, who's going to come back testing positive? And it happened again and again. And UEFA just didn't, pardon my French, just didn't give a shit. They just didn't care. They were like, we want these qualifiers to be played. We want these friendlies to be played, meaningless games. And you're just going to have to send your players and play them. I mean, there was a point, I'm pretty sure, where Jurgen Klopp was, he couldn't have, but he was threatening to prevent his players going on international duty. And I can understand I can understand qualifiers being played, because at some point you have to fit them in. But friendlies, why? What is the point in that? You're disrupting the competitive calendar. You know what I mean? They've got the European Championships taking place in June, I believe. Don't know where. I don't think they've actually confirmed where those games are going to take place. And then you've got the Champions League, which was ongoing, and that did affect Bayern Munich. I mean, Bayern Munich lost Lewandowski. Real Madrid lost Sergio Ramos. I mean, these are big players for those teams, and they lost them. And it affect, in the end, Bayern Munich got eliminated because they were missing their main goal scorer. I mean, I'm pretty sure Lewandowski would have scored a couple of those chances at the very least. Fortunately for Real Madrid, they were able to eliminate Liverpool without Ramos. But there's plenty of times in the past where Real Madrid have not had Ramos and have faced elimination. So, and that all happened on the back of international. So, but UEFA just doesn't care. It's all about the money, as per usual.
DJ, you were mentioning Danilo.
Yeah, he came out with a statement earlier this evening talking about how there is a need for reform in modern football, and he was speaking about very directly to UEFA, not liking their tone and talking about the schedule, how packed the schedule is for the players during the pandemic, which is not really, and they seem to cite the fans, for stuff like this, but Danilo had a very fair point. It was about also caring about the players, which UEFA clearly isn't doing at the moment.
And tying to that, right? That's the Nations League, right? They make it look competitive, and I don't understand. It's like you see that meme with Roman uses it quite a lot on Twitter when they got the lift the cup, but there's no cup,
Yeah.
Cup. I don't know why people use that we've won the Nations League cup, but you realize it's just a fantasy make-up belief to make it competitive, and I find it. Enough with the qualifiers for Europe, enough for qualifiers for World Cup, and then you got the Champions League. Like to this point, it's strain on the football club. And I think the clubs are all going to get to a point where because it's so, like to your point about Bayern getting knocked out because they got key players knocked out, right? To a point where they're going to start suing the federations. And then the federation won't want to have that on their plate. And I honestly think friendly football will die a death because I cannot see it continuing like this. I mean, the schedules are getting more compact. I mean, you hear it all the time in the Premiership. Every time, Graham, you hear it like around Christmas. It's just packed. It's packed. It's packed. It's constantly, in the UK, it's constantly packed schedules. And look, I know these guys are sports professionals, but they are human at the end of the day. They're made of flesh and bone. They're not robots. Maybe one day they'll be robots, and then they can play 50 games a day for all you care. But it's ridiculous. It's absurd. I just detest these friendlies and the Nations League.
Garbage.
All right, guys. We gotta finish this one up. It's been great fun having you on, Eli, and Graham, DJ, and of course Auber. We've been talking about the football and the future football, the present of football. Unfortunately, the past is the past. Nothing we can do about that. But hopefully, somebody grows some balls and does something about this, because we cannot continue like this with money is being money and the greed is running the football at the moment. And I don't like it. You guys don't like it. The fact that, as I said at the beginning, the promoted club from the championship gets more money than the Champions League winner. It kind of says enough. And the Nations League, the friendlies, the inhumane treatment of the players. You travel all across the world in space of 1 week and expect to perform at the highest level. It's not a good look. Before we go, last question from the chat to the Juve boys. What is the way forward for Juve? I think what Mr. Reebok means is where do we go from this season? Let's say we do get the top 4, and let's say we are not being sanctioned by UEFA. I hope we won't. We are in the Champions League. What is the next for us? Quick round about that. Let's start with Auber. What's the next for Juve? What they should do, and what do you think they will do?
It needs to start from a fresh start, rebuilding from the grassroots up. Pirlo, unfortunately, you talk about giving him time. I talk about Ferguson back in the day. The difference is Ferguson did his time as a manager. Unfortunately, I don't think Pirlo is just the coach for Juve, first of all. I think Paratici needs to go as well. Middle management needs, that middle management that needs to be refreshed. That's why I mentioned with our dear friend there about Brazzo coming to Juve from Bayern. And start building the squad, building that spot. And what DJ touched upon earlier, buy players that can play in the bloody position. Don't stop faffing around, putting Benedeschi left wing and Danilo right wing, centre back, all the, Quadrado, as critical I am about Quadrado, he is fantastic going forward, being as a winger, as a right winger, third striker, not bloody right back, but they consider. So that's what I say. Start building, getting players that we need the positions, the full backs, left back, a centre back to play with Delict, and get a midfielder that can join the game up together. And then we'll build slowly, and that's how you start it.
DJ.
I think, guys, this year we're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. We took this call with Pirlo. I think the most sensible thing would be to let there be some kind of continuity. I have a very unpopular opinion. I was of the opinion that Sarri should have never been sacked. Because when he was brought in, he wasn't given the players of his system. And I think when he was adapting, by that point, there was talk of him having lost the dressing room. We had this whole pandemic situation. We brought in the cheapest available option in Pirlo. I think we'll be making this mistake, letting go of Pirlo. But what I think none of us realize, the club, is that we keep focusing so much on the plus Valenza that we're not really getting the players that we actually need. It's really simple. This midfield has sucked for God knows how long. You bring in a Ronaldo. Ronaldo's not going to do anything for you if he doesn't get the supply. And still hit to him because he's still doing his job. Can you imagine Ronaldo with the midfield we had back in the day? MVP, I think we would, be doing what Madrid have been doing in the recent past. We'd have a couple of Champions Leagues on the trot. But this entire project with Ronaldo, I think I see as a failure, largely because we didn't really build a system around him. That's done with. The right thing, I think, where we are right now would be to get the players that Pirlo needs, give him that season. Hopefully we do qualify for the Champions League. I feel like he's not got the positive with Pirlo is he has no emotional baggage, as Juve coach. So he's going to give the youngsters a chance. Let's blood them a little bit, play people to position. And then we're probably on a more firm wicket than we are right now. But you sack him, you're going on a roundabout. You can't afford any other coach of international repute. Where do you go? You can't afford an Agnelli. You certainly can't afford Conte. Where do we start? So I think the key is continuity. No plus Valenza this season. Just do important swaps. Get Bernardeschi, swap for an important defender. Maybe if you have to plus Valenza, Demirel, you can do that. But you've got to fix the midfield. It all starts there. My two candidates for that are Locatelli. I kind of see that we've been consistently linked to him. So I'm kind of seeing there is a lot of legitimacy in that deal. And Auber, I feel like is a dark horse, but I think he'd well to complete where we are in midfield at the moment. We've got all sorts of problems in attack as well. I think there's talk of Dybala. We can't afford the new contract. What are we doing with Ronaldo? There are too many questions, guys. I think let's take baby steps. Midfield first, defense second, and not leave the attack as is if given a choice.
Let's finish up with Graham.
Well, first of all, replace Pirlo with an actual manager. Send Pirlo back to being unimpressed and drinking wine, and sell Ronaldo and actually build a team, because he cost an absolute fortune. And how are you supposed to reinvest in building a team during a normal season? Never mind pandemic, when you're pumping all your money into one player. And no matter how good that player is, he's not going to do it on his own. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Like, the midfield needs readjustments. It needs enforcing. The full-back positions are god-awful at times. I mean, no offence to Frabotta, but when your left-back position is Alexandro or Frabotta, pretty much, I mean, what does that tell you? On the right-back, you've got Cuadrado, and Danilo has mainly been played as a centre-back. So, I mean, you need to bring in at least one person full-back, and preferably at least one genuine world-class midfielder. And I can't see any of that happening whilst you're paying Cristiano Ronaldo at, almost 30, whatever it is, age he is, earning an absolute fortune. And send your hate mail to 1897 for that one.
How do we get rid of Ronaldo? I think that is the question, because in theory it is the correct thing to do. But how do you take these wages off your books? Because every other club that can actually afford him can't at the moment. We're not going to get the 29 million transfer fee that we need to break even. Who's going to pay him the wages? That's not going to happen. It's the same with Pirlo. We sack him. Who are we going to bring on as coach that we can afford? Pirlo, if I remember, if I'm not mistaken, is on a salary of 1.8 million euro a year. Allegri is going to cost you about 4 times that, 5 times that maybe. Pep and Zizou are going to be costing you about 7 times that. So where does it really begin?
Well, Pep Guardiola is a pipe dream. Zinedine Zidane, if Real Madrid could potentially win the Champions League, so I don't see him coming to Juventus anytime soon. But that's the price you need to pay for an actual manager. If you want a manager in charge and knows what they're doing with the experience and the qualifications, you need to pay for it. And regarding Cristiano Ronaldo, I believe that all Juventus would need to sell him for 29 or 30 million to make a profit on him. And that's not unreasonable. I'm sure there's someone that would spend at least 30 million on him. And regardless, wherever Ronaldo goes, he's only got, I believe, 1 more year left on his contract at Juventus. Whether he stays with Juventus or moves on, he's going to have to take a wage cut, no matter what. So
Can I propose Ele, can we do a swap since you're Bayern boy there with Kimmich? How about Ronaldo? Let's do a swap. Wait for it. Come on, let's do it. I know you want it. I know you want it. Come on.
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. You can have him.
He's a wonderful player. Defender, midfielder. The guy's a wonder boy.
He jumps excellently in the wall, by the way, I have to say.
Yeah, Kimmich.
No. Cristiano.
Ah,
Yeah.
Silence.
no, we have enough attackers. We don't need Ronaldo.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's fair enough. Yeah, and also don't forget, guys, the this Super League's nonsense also kind of affected the whole thing. The Locatelli deal was actually on the brink of collapsing just because of us being included in the Super League deal. And Cristiano suddenly, I saw the rumors today that Manchester United were interested in Cristiano, and of course suddenly the Paul Pogba Cristiano swap was on the cards again, which is it's fire.
Pogba's not going anywhere. He's happy at Man United. He's happy with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Ole, listen, a lot of people talk about this, right? But Ole puts his arm around Pogba. Pogba loves to be monocled. He loves it. He loves, you're the best, and he's got the manager who does it. Mourinho hated that, and he didn't get the love from Mourinho. Pogba ain't going anywhere. The only place he will be going, if he does leave Man United, is Spain, Madrid or Barcelona. Why would you go back? No offense to Bayern. It's just Madrid. It's and Barcelona. It's just they seem to be the ones.
Guys, leave Pogba alone. He's back home.
We're just gonna have to buy within Italy this season. I'm just not seeing any big players coming through. Samaka, 40 million. That's what the new price is. I don't know if you guys read it. I mean, where is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? So you will have their work cut out, and I just see a lot of swap deals in the offing this summer.
Indeed.
That's really the only way forward.
All right. On that note, I think we're gonna sum this up. We enjoyed ourselves. I think we did, guys. It was great fun. So I hope you also guys enjoyed who you watched throughout the whole stream. Of course, smash a like and subscribe to this channel. And let's see you all for Sunday. It's against Viola, the Derby della Baggio, as I like to call it. Let's break them in half once again, with or without Federico Chiesa. And the revenge for the 3-0 disaster from the December. That will be fun, huh? All right. Fino alla fine. Thank you so much for joining for DJ, Auber, Graham, and Eli, of course, from the Bayern Munich community. And we'll see you guys. Fino alla fine. Forza Juve.
Ciao.
Have a good